There's something strange about this. Most of us spend our entire lives working with money, but very few people actually understand how money really works. Not the textbook definition, not phrases like a medium of exchange or a store of value, but the real system behind money, the invisible structure that decides whether you feel constantly stressed or able to sleep peacefully at night. And the strange part is, we interact with this system every day, yet rarely pause to understand how it actually operates. Most people were never taught this, not because it's too complex, not because it's secret knowledge, but because the people who benefit most from you not understanding it are often the ones who write the rules. When rules go unquestioned, they become invisible. And invisible rules are the easiest ones to live inside without noticing. Let's start with a simple question. What is money? At its core, money is not paper. It's not the numbers in your bank account. Money is trust. It's a collective agreement that this piece of paper or this number on a screen has value. Fiat money has no intrinsic worth. It works only because we all agree that it works, and that agreement, once broken, cannot be forced back into existence. And here's an important point. When you receive a paycheck, you are not actually receiving wealth. You are receiving a promise that this money can be exchanged for goods, services, or someone else's time. If that trust disappears, the value disappears with it, which is why money often feels solid until suddenly it doesn't. Understanding this changes how we see money. Money is not something you fully own. It's part of a larger system of belief. And once you see that, you begin to notice how much of modern life is built on maintaining that belief. Now let's look at how that system operates. When you deposit money in a bank, the bank does not simply keep it. Most of it is loaned out. And when loans are created, new money is created. In other words, a large portion of money in the economy exists because of debt. Every loan creates money, but it also creates an obligation to pay interest. That obligation quietly shapes how the entire system behaves. This leads to an important reality. The system requires continuous growth to survive, because interest demands more money in the future than what was originally created. When growth slows, pressure builds, and that pressure is rarely felt at the top first. It moves downward into everyday lives. This is where many people begin to blame themselves. They think they're bad with money. They think they lack discipline. They wonder why they work so hard but never seem to get ahead. But very often, the issue is not personal. It's structural. It's a system designed to depend on debt, constant spending, and money flowing without pause. And living inside that system without understanding it can quietly drain confidence over time. There's another important layer to this system. It doesn't run only on numbers. It runs on psychology. Money today is no longer just about survival. It's about signaling. Signaling that you're doing okay, that you're progressing, that you belong. And that signaling is usually tied to consumption. Homes, cars, devices, lifestyle. Often the pressure to consume doesn't come from need, but from comparison. What's interesting is that the system allows you to have these things before you truly own them. That's what debt does. Debt lets you experience the future early, but you pay for it with your time, often for decades. And during that time, your options quietly narrow. Once you carry significant debt, something predictable happens. You become more cautious, less willing to pause, less willing to change direction, not because you are weak, but because you lack margin. External comfort comes with internal dependence, and dependence is rarely discussed openly. Now look at a different group, people who truly understand the system. They don't use debt primarily for consumption. They use it as a tool. When they borrow to acquire assets, things that generate cash flow or grow in value over time. Same tool, different structure, different outcome. The difference is not intelligence, it's awareness. This is not about morality. It's not about good or bad people. It's about understanding versus not understanding. Understanding the system doesn't free you overnight, but it does something more important. It helps you stop blaming yourself. And that shift alone changes how you move forward. And once self-blame fades, better questions appear. Not how do I make more money at any cost, but is money serving my life or is my life serving money? That question changes priorities, and priorities shape outcomes over time. You may never fully escape the system, but you can stop playing exactly the way it wants you to play. You can consume less to impress, build more to create options, and spend time on things that compound over the long term. Small changes, made consistently, often matter more than dramatic moves. Understanding how money works does not promise wealth, but it offers something rare: clarity. Clarity about where you are, clarity about the game you're in, and clarity to choose your next move with intention, not pressure. If this video helped you see money a little more clearly, then it has done its job. What you do with that understanding next is entirely up to you.